Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with a review of a shot-on-video horror film from 1987, and that movie is Video Violence. This movie is about a husband and wife who open a video store in a small town, only to find out that the people there only rent horror films and make their own snuff films. Pretty awesome plot. The film begins with a prologue of a woman buying clothes from a store, and the cashier directs her towards the fitting rooms, where he watches her undress through a camera that they have installed, and then he beats her to death with a baseball bat on camera, kisses her bloodied face, and credits with cheesy fucking music. So, so after the credits, we get a screen that says day one. Now, this movie follows the events of 5 days. 5 days. Um, of and Rick, the younger employee at the video store, to shows up early and waits outside. Um, and before his boss gets there, and then he complains before they find a blank tape, and they find a blank tape in a case, and they're like, "Oh, this must be someone else's." And then before they decide to watch it, this guy comes in and is like, "Hey, can I get a copy of that Chainsaw movie?" That's actually what he said, and he got a copy of Pieces from 1982, which, as you guys know, is probably one of my favorite 80s slashers. Um, and I thought that was a kind of a cool little gag or reference, but anyway, seeing that made me kind of happy. So they decide to watch the tape, only to realize that it's a snuff video of a man being killed with hedge clippers, and being decapitated. Pretty damn cheesy. So the boss goes down to the police to report the tape and the people on the tape committing the murders. The police chief doesn't buy anything he's saying, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to humor you. We're going to go down to the video store and we're going to watch this supposed snuff film." And when he gets there, the younger employee, Rick, and the tape is gone. They're both gone. And then the movie kind of makes fun of itself by saying, there's no such thing as a shot on video horror film. Like, oh, that's stupid. Those don't exist. And because because it was shot on video, it has to be real. The owner then goes home to his wife and explains that Rick, who is like their adopted son or a guy they just kind of live with and run the store with, is missing. So his wife gets really mad and day two begins. With the opening of the store and more cheesy music, then a woman goes in with her baby and rents a film that I've heard of. I haven't seen it yet. I'm kind of interested in seeing it, called Blood Cult. Now, this movie is a splatter film as far as I know. It's a very violent film. And she's like, "Oh, what rating is this?" And he looks on the back and he's like, "R." And she's like, "Is there any nudity in it?" And he says, "No, it's probably because all the violence." And she's like, "Good, then my kids can watch it." Let me just let that sink in for a second. If that's not satire, then I don't know what satire is. And I probably don't. So, and I'm not going to judge this woman because I wouldn't do the same exact thing, but I would raise my kids on like horror films, not like major horror films, stuff like The Willies or I know this isn't considered a horror film, but it scared me as a kid. The Goonies, stuff like that. So I'm not gonna judge. So next we get another scene of people murdering on camera, but this time we actually see the people like committing these murders, and they plan to kill this drifter with either a straight razor, a pair of scissors, or a ice pick. Then back to the video store, where apparently this video store is the only video store in the 1980s or at any point in history before before video stores went extinct, the only video store that didn't have late fees. And he was just like, oh, she's like, don't I owe you money for this being late? And he's like, oh, yeah, $4. And I'm just like, he made that up on the spot. He didn't know what the fuck late fees were. Then back to Basement Snuff Hour, which is just my name for it. And what we get in the next scene is what I can only explain as a less twisted and more enjoyable to watch 80s version of August Underground. So we continue to wait for Rick to show up. And I just really ended it here because I was running out of space on to type, and I really wanted to just watch the rest of the movie. So, will the people of this town stop being so fucked up in the head? Or will this senseless video violence continue? Video violence is an enjoyable, cheese-filled splatter fest of a film. As long as you enjoy campy acting, writing, effects, cinematography, really anything, as long as you can enjoy a bad movie and violence, you can enjoy this one. Because this movie is pretty damn cheesy. The writing and acting are almost on par with Pink Flamingos, which is probably some of the worst acting and writing I've ever seen. The effects are where the film really shines, and by shines I mean glimmers lightly in the sunlight of the viewer's eyes, depending on the viewer, of course. The only really negative I have to say about this movie, unless you consider bad acting and writing to be a negative, usually, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on what kind of movie it is. The only real negative I have is the sound mix. It's kind of messed up, and there's points where you can't hear people talking, and towards like the last 10 minutes of the movie, the sound completely cuts out, and you just get like commentary of these guys just like laughing and talking about random shit. Which that really just like, I was gonna give this a 5 out of 5, and that just knocked the star off by itself, because that was pretty annoying. On the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like the Corpse Grinders, and 10 being something like Brain Dead, this movie's a 5 or 6. It's decently gory. I really love this one. Never really boring, always violent. 4 out of 5, guys. As I said before, I was going to give it 5 out of 5, but the audio cut with the commentary in the last 10 minutes just killed that 5, that extra star for me. Other than that and the sound issues, I can highly recommend this to really any B horror fans, especially any B slasher fans. Yeah, and the full movie is actually available on YouTube. That's where I watched it. So yeah, you guys can watch the movie if you want. If you don't want, no skin off my nose, I guess. Anyway, guys, I'm BiscuitBoo69 signing off. Peace.